Hi there. So today we're going to start with what I call melody scale theory, and it's the foundation for a lot of what I do when it comes to musical analysis, particularly the analysis of why a certain piece or a certain song is interesting and why it, for lack of a better term, works. Melody scale theory, as I call it, is a way of analyzing a melody based on where the notes of that melody fall within the diatonic key of the composition at any given point in the piece, within a phrase, in a verse, in a chorus, whatever you want to apply it to. Most of the time, we're applying that to the beginnings of a phrase or a section or the end and cadences of a phrase or section, but I mean, we can really use it all over the place. It's based on the solfege system, so do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. A lot of people know that one, except that instead of using the solfege syllables, we're using numbers to represent each degree of the scale. So going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then starting the scale over again at 1. When we use melody scale theory, we're taking those solfege syllables, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and we're replacing them with numbers. So say if we're in C major, C is now 1, and then we go up the scale from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. Now, if we were to flip that and go to A minor, it would still be the same thing. So A is now our 1, and now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now, there's going to be differences in these based on major or minor. For example, technically in minor, that 7 and 6 are going to be flat 7, 3 is going to be flat 3. And, we might use that sometimes here, or sometimes just if we already know we're in a minor key in advance, we'll just use 1 through 7 and let it be understood that the third, the sixth, and the 7, 3, 6, and 7 are all going to be flat compared to what they would be if we were talking about a melody in a major key. The way we apply this is that we start out with what we call our stable tones, which are the notes of the tonic triad. So let's say in C major here, we're in C, so we have C, E, and G. That's our tonic triad. So now these are 1, 3, and 5. These are what we call stable tones. When we start a melody on one of these tones, or we end a melody on one of these tones, and also if we use them as passing tones in between the beginning and end of a melody, these overall are notes that will make the melody sound like it's come to some place of rest or stability. Now, this can completely change when we introduce chords into the mix. So when we're talking about pure melody scale theory, the best way of looking at it, or the most, again, pure way of looking at it, is just thinking about it in terms of an unaccompanied melody in the beginning. So we have 1, 3, and 5 are stable tones, but then leads us to our less stable tones, 2, 4, 6, and 7. And again, none of these are bad. None of them sound particularly wrong or off in the context of what we're doing. But they will, for example, we take a melody and go, there's kind of a feeling of, I feel like we kind of came up to the edge of a cliff and then we just stood there. Whereas then if we end that with, that sounds like, okay, we kind of went up to the edge of the cliff and then we walked back down. Or say we go and we start up higher on the cliff and we go do 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 do. We kind of like took a flight up and came back down and then do 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 do. we're back to landing again. We kind of went up and we came back down. Those were self-contained musical improvisations. They weren't even really phrases, although most of them had they all were structured around beginning, a first half, and then a second half, or a couple of fragments combined into a complete section of melody. Now, when we hear this in practice, it's usually used to function as a kind of give and take or question and answer, or even a series of questions followed by a final answer, or maybe even an answer that leaves more questions. Many classic melodies will make use of the technique of alternating an unstable end to a phrase or a fragment with a stable one, or having several unstable ones into a stable ending. And what that can do is it keeps your ear wanting to hear what happens next in the piece. It keeps you moving forward. If everything was stable, so like no, that had some repetition to it. It had some rhythmic and melodic variation, but you can get away with that for, maybe 30 seconds with nothing else happening if you varied enough. But eventually, the ear is going to kind of drift and, yeah, it's just not going to be that interesting to listen to. So we can learn some great lessons from Mary Had a Little Lamb, because Mary Had a Little Lamb shows us the technique of, well, I'll demonstrate it to you. So we have Mary Had a Little Lamb. So we're going to start on scale degree 3 here in the key of C. So Mary Had a Little Lamb starts on 3. So we go 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. So first phrase, we end on a stable tone. It's not 1, which is the most stable out of all the tones, but 3. It's not a bad one to end on. It's doesn't leave you uncomfortable, but it still sounds like, okay, we came to a point where we can take a breath there. But then the next portion ends on 2, an unstable tone. Ooh. But then we go back up again, so our next fragment is 5. So far we've gone 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. Stable mostly. 2, 2, 2. Not quite so stable. 3, 5, 5. Okay. Still not 1, but still kind of stable. It's like, okay, we got to 1, 3, or 5. We can kind of take a breath. 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. Again with the 3. And we're not resting on it, we're repeating it, which also kind of gives us a sense of forward urgency. 2, 2, 3, 2. Now count for the ending. 1. So Mary Had a Little Lamb. Again, the emphasis on 3 and 5 makes it so it never sounds too weird to the ear, but at the same time we have those sections that repeat or end a phrase on 2, or like come to a middle point of a phrase on 2, and then finally we don't end on 1, like come to a stable sustained note on 1 until the very end of the verse. I was reaching for a water bottle that wasn't there. Okay, so then we can also hear this how it applies to other folk melodies. Like there's one here that goes, so that was a fragment. So they hit this, we're in the key of A minor, so that's 7, 1, 3, 4. And just there's like a little lift and pause there. So we ended that on 4. So we're wondering, where else does that go? So we have our answer. So we went 1, 1, 1, 7, 5. Which, 5 is stable, but 5 is also usually used as a kind of point of false rest to get us going into the next section. So now we have do 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 again, 7 1 3 4, and then 1 1 1 7 1. Okay, cool. So we ended our question with 5 here, but then we ended our answer with 1. Our next phrase, we want to do something different and generate some excitement, so we're actually going to start up here on 5. 5 7 5 4 3 1 7 1 1 1 7 5. So we're ending that phrase on 5 again, which we can already say, okay, cool, that's going to propel us to an answering phrase. And we get 7 1 3 4 1 or 3 1 1 1 7 1. And again, we come to a place of rest. So that whole cycle is just like that. That's an example of how a lot of folk melodies, and we'll definitely cover some of those in later installments, that's an example of how a lot of folk melodies have that repetition, that question answer built in. It's something that people have figured out how to reverse engineer over a few centuries, but it was already built in there quite some time ago before people turned it into music theory. And I think that's fascinating. Now this last one here, we're going to take an improvised melody. This started as an improvised melody. I'm going to do it pre-written here, but it's what was an improvised solo on the pentatonic scale. So we're going to start out with 5 here in the key of C now. One more time. Do, 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 do. Okay, so we started on 5. Again, stable, nice stable place to start. Went down through 3, 2, 1, and then went 3, 1, 6, 5. So we know ending on 5 means that we're most likely, especially ending on a 5 low, means we're most likely preparing to go somewhere next. So now we're going to repeat that phrase again. So our second phrase starts out the same as the first. But now we're going to do a run up starting on 6. But now we're going to go 6 5. We ended there. So now we're back to 5 again. So next phrase is similar to the first one. It's the rhythm's a little bit different and the ending's slightly different, but same principle. So same thing, ending on 5 again, and we went from 6 to 5 on all those, which is one of those that we call it a tendency tone, which means it's 6 usually, but not always, but usually has a tendency to want to pull down to 5, go from an unstable to a more stable within the key. And now for the fourth phrase, we're going to shake it up. We're going to start all the way up here on 7. So we're going to go 7. Going to end on 1. So that was 7, 5, 3, 1, 3. And now we're going here. 5, 6, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Bringing it to a close. So we had all those phrases do, 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 do. All those ending on, we always want to hear 5 go to do, 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 go to 1 usually. So it's. And then the last one throws in 7 to spice it up a bit. And we finally end on 1. We bring some close. And of course, then the next part goes do, 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 and starts us over on a new cycle on a new phrase. So that's an introduction to melody scale theory and how it functions to give melodies a sense of rest versus a sense of tension or the need to pull forward. And that will underlie the future discussion that I do here and will share with y'all about how songs, whether these songwriters understand it or not, whether they're doing it consciously or not, how that is a tool in some of the most well-known pieces of music that seem to stick around for years and years or decades and decades. So I hope you'll stick with me. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, like and subscribe, do the thing, push the thing, and I'll be here with another one in a short time. So enjoy.